everyone, sorry it's been so long since I have filmed a video. For those who don't know me, I'm Helen, and for those who do, it has been a while since I filmed a video. I feel like the last one I did was an August TBR, so I probably filmed that in July, and so I just haven't felt like filming any videos. However, Eurovisionathon is my baby. It's the readathon that I created and I do enjoy hosting it. So if anything is going to make me jump back on and film a video, it's going to be this. So without further ado, I am going to officially announce that Eurovisionathon is starting again. It is running from Saturday the 18th of April till Saturday the 16th of May. So it is a month-long readathon. I've already started the countdown, so each day from 35 days before the contest, because there are 35 countries in the Eurovision Song Contest, I do a countdown of countries, and each time I list a book that I will be reading for that country. That countdown is happening on Instagram, it's happening on X, and it's happening in the group Discord. So, without further ado, I'm going to talk through the books that I'm going to read for each country. There are many here that you may have seen before in past Eurovisionathon videos, so for that reason I will not be describing what those books are about. I will list the playlist for Eurovisionathon below so that you can go back and watch previous videos and get more ideas of books that you can read for those countries. For those who have not done it before, I get really tongue-tied when I'm discussing this readathon and forget important information, so I've told you when it's from until. In order to take part in this readathon, you just need to read a book for a country. However, if you're wanting to fully be involved in the readathon, the idea is to read as many books from the Eurovision countries as possible, the 35 countries that are taking part in Eurovision Song Contest this year. So yeah, like I said, there's 35. It's one book per country. I will be putting up a sign-up sheet as soon as it's created. Andy, my husband, is going to do that for me in the next few days, so keep an eye out in the comments below and I'll put that there. Also, there will be a form to fill in each time you read a book, and on that form it will ask you which country you're reading from, how many pages, and how it links to the country. And so then that will log what you've read for the readathon. At the end of the readathon, which ends on the Saturday the 16th of May, ends when the Eurovision Song Contest starts, and in UK time that's normally 7:30, 8 o'clock ish. That will be the cut-off point, and no books will be counted after that time. Each book that you read, you will earn the points that country earns in the contest, so you will only know officially what points you've scored once the results have been announced, and I will then probably the next day do a scoreboard of what everybody's points were. We have had people in the past who've read all of the countries. The interesting thing about this readathon is that not every country that is listed to take part actually takes part in the contest, so there will be 2 semi-finals during that final week before the 16th of May. Normally I want to say it's on the Tuesday and the Thursday of that week, and so after that first Tuesday semi-final some countries will be knocked out, and if you've read books for those countries, unfortunately you will score no points for that. The same on the Thursday, some more countries will be knocked out and you won't get points for those countries. That's part of the fun of it. People then, after that Tuesday and Thursday, then start scrabbling for books that they know are through to the contest and start trying to read those in order to gain more points. Obviously on the night, one of the countries that you've read for still might get no points or very little points. And hopefully you will read a book for the winning country and get lots and lots of points. I hope that makes sense. Go back to past Eurovisionathon videos where I might have done a slightly better job of describing this. But there does tend to be a core group of people who take part in this readathon, and you will find them on the Discord, and you will find them by following the hashtag Eurovisionathon and seeing posts again on Instagram and on X. I call it Twitter, but X. I think that's everything in terms of rules, so I'm going to go through the countries now. Most importantly, just enjoy the readathon. I love it every year. Sometimes I do a mini version in October, November time for Junior Eurovision. That's only for 2 weeks. there doesn't tend to be as many people who take part in that, but I still enjoy doing it anyway. Right, so for Albania, I have this time picked a book called The Crossway by Guy Stagg. I will describe what this one's about because I have not described it on here before. It's a relatively new one to my TBR. Also, to just say, I just thought of something I was going to say. Sorry, I've got massive brain fog. You can read a book that's linked to the country in any way. So the author might be from that country, the book might be set in that country, the person in the book might travel to that country or be from there originally, they might visit there for a few days. You know, it would be good if the country's mentioned quite a lot or it has a lot to do with the story, but I'm not going to be going through every book checking. It just needs to link in somewhere, and that really is down to you. That's the main thing. So for Albania, we've got The Crossway. It says, in 2013, Guy Stagg walked from Canterbury to Jerusalem. Though a non-believer, he began the pilgrimage after suffering several years of mental illness, hoping the ritual would heal him. For 10 months, he hiked alone on the ancient paths, crossing 10 countries and more than 5,500 kilometres. Travelling without support, he had to rely each night on the charity of strangers. The Crossway is an account of Stagg's extraordinary journey. It describes the dangers he faced on the road, captures the people he met and the landscapes he experienced, offers a unique insight into contemporary faith, and most movingly lays bare his struggles to escape the past and walk towards recovery. Now, it says he travels through 10 countries, so I'm reading it for Albania, but let me see if I can tell where he travels through. There is a map, so let's see. So you could use it from the UK because he starts in London, he goes through Paris, he goes through Switzerland, he goes through Italy, he goes through, like I say, Albania, Greece, Cyprus, and ends up in Jerusalem, so Israel. So there are many countries you can use for Eurovisionathon. I'm choosing it for Albania. Next we have Armenia, and I have picked one called Our Ex's Wedding. I will have to put a picture up of it here because I don't have the physical copy. I will be reading this, I want to say, on my library's borrow box. So let's have a look. I've got a description of it here. So this one's by Talene Voskuni. I have read 2 of it. Look at the light off there. I've had shining on my face. I've read 2 of her books before for Eurovisionathon and really enjoyed them. I read Sorry Bro. Oh, and I can't remember what the other one's called. Sorry Bro. Oh, and Lavash at First Sight. They're not set in Armenia, but they're very involved. The people are Armenian and living in America, but they're involved in festivals to do with Armenia and live a very Armenian life within that place. So this one says, 2 people who can't stand each other must come together to plan their mutual ex's wedding. So yeah, I do remember reading about this. Both of their exes get together and get married in this new romantic comedy. But first they'll have to deal with the tension sizzling between them before it turns their ex's nuptials into a full-blown disaster or something much more scandalous. So that is for Armenia. Then for Australia, you will have seen this before. I'm not going to describe it again. Devotion by Hannah Kent. I bought this for £5 in the Waterstones sale because it was all coming apart. And I just do prefer hardbacks, and it's got the gorgeous sprayed edges. This has been on many Eurovisionathon TBRs. I'm just not reaching for it, and it's a shame because I've read a Hannah Kent before for Eurovisionathon and really enjoyed it. Cannot remember for the life of me the name of it, so I'm not going to describe what this is about. By all means, go and look it up yourself because I've mentioned this one many times before. My idea this year was to pick a book for every country and just stick with that book that I'd chosen, which I've done. However, my head every year gets turned by other books, which is why ones like this just get missed, because I don't read the ones on my shelves. I read ones that I find out and about in the library, on BorrowBox, on Scribd. Yeah, anywhere else I find them throughout the time of Eurovision. I work in a library as well, so I see books there all the time. Yeah, so hopefully this is the year that Devotion gets read. Then for Austria, again, you'll have seen this one before, In the Fast Lane by Lottie Moore. think it's Vienna that's mentioned in this. Not going to describe it, but again, been here a long time. I need to get them off my shelves. As you can see, these are there's a shelf down there as well with hardbacks on. 4 shelves I've got. My aim is to just keep books on these 4 shelves, not have them anywhere else. These 2 massive piles that are sat here are on my desk upstairs because I knew I'd be reading them for Eurovision. Well, Eurovisionathon. If they don't get read, they have to go back on here and there's no space. So, encouragement, send me good vibes. So yeah, in the fast lane, Lottie Moore, that is for Austria. Then we have Azerbaijan. There's one called 3 Minutes to Eternity. I have bought it via the Kindle app. When they do 99p deals, I go on there and I buy all of those in. I have mentioned this one before. I will put a picture of it here. By all means, go and have a look what you think. But it's actually set at the Eurovision Song Contest. So that's a perfect one to read. Later on, I've got another one that's set there. Perfect, giving me the vibes for the readathon. For Belgium, I have got A Fish Trapped Inside the Wind by Christian Cholson. I've mentioned this one before. It hasn't been on my Eurovisionathon TBR for a while, but I bought this at a Waterstones in Lee when I got like 12 books for a pound each, which was a steal. That video is on here as well. I think it's just a book haul. Go and look it up. Look the book up if you fancy it. I'm pretty sure it mentions the French border as well, so that might be possible. It says it mentions on the back that there's a dance troupe who once got naked at the Vatican. So the Vatican's mentioned as well. So go and explore. Could be used for other countries. I want to get this off my shelves. It was a steal. Yeah, the writing doesn't even fill all the pages. It's got quite big margins. 268 pages, very doable. But again, a country which Belgium hasn't always been in it, and so this should be the year that I should really try and get this one off my shelves. Otherwise, who knows? That is the issue as well, is that there's a book here for Romania. They're in it for the first time in a while. It's been sat on my shelves for ages because anytime I see a book with a Eurovision country in it, I grab it, especially if it's at a good price, and then it sits there each year being passed by. So yeah, need to get this one read. Then for Bulgaria, I had this one planned because it mentions multiple countries. Neither Here Nor There by Bill Bryson. Mentioned this one before. It mentions lots of countries within it, so you could use it for other places as well. This one just mentions capital cities in the front, so it's got Oslo, Paris, Brussels, Belgium, Amsterdam, Hamburg, Copenhagen, Gothenburg, Stockholm, Rome, Naples, Sorrento and Capri, Florence, Milan and Como, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Austria, Yugoslavia, Sevilla, Istanbul. You know, many countries, capitals mentioned there, and countries, so you can use this for many. My plan when I picked out all of my 35 books was to read this for Bulgaria. However, a little while ago for Eurovisionathon, maybe a couple of years ago, I read The Amazing Mrs. Polifax for Albania because it was one of the only Albanian books I could find. It's basically about an elderly lady who by accident becomes a CIA operative, and she's so good at what she does, like she's so unassuming, people don't expect her to be a spy, so she just kind of gets passed by a little bit, and that's how she falls into it, and then escapades get more dramatic each book you go along. So I read that, then looked, and the next book was set in Turkey, and I thought, well, I can't read that for Eurovisionathon, so it just kind of passed me by. But recently I read the Turkey one. There was method in my madness because the next book is set in Bulgaria. That one's The Elusive Mrs. Polifax, so I'm going to read that for Bulgaria, and then I will mention the next one for another country later, but the follow-on country is a Eurovision country as well. So I may carry on with the series and read 2 Mrs. Polifaxes for Eurovisionathon. They're really easy to read. They're really, I wouldn't call them cozy crime, but it kind of does feel like that because Mrs. Polifax makes you feel cozy. But the last one that I read that was set in Turkey, you know, it was high stakes, and I really enjoyed it. So, and I can read it in audiobook. The problem I've got at the minute is with my shoulders and just my posture and things. I am basically making my body sit hunched all the time reading, and it's a real issue. So what I've agreed with myself, because I don't want to give up my hobby, I have got one shoulder, and it's weird how I'm sitting now, but I've got one shoulder higher than the other. One, when I lie down, my massage therapist said it sits further forward, so I've actually pushed my skeleton out of place as well because of my posture and everything. I've got tight fascia in my back, but that's another story. So I've promised myself that I'll listen to more audiobooks in order to keep my hobby going, even though I love reading a physical book. So I've got to try and sort the two, so I can get a lot of the Mrs. Polifax books on BookBeat, which I've been on a trial recently, and on, what's it called? What's the app? Oh, Spotify. Yeah, Spotify as well. Like, apparently I get 15 hours audiobooks, which I've only just realised, so I can go between the two, and I can get the Mrs. Polifax books on there. That was long-winded, I apologise. The next book, next country is Croatia. This one's been on my pile for a while. I really want to read it. I'm just not reaching for it, and I don't know why. The Dubrovnik Book Club by Eva Glynn. Mentioned it many times before. Go back and have a look or look up for it yourself. However, really wanted to read it this year. I don't know if anybody else has been watching the Karen Pirie detective series on TV. The first series was on during lockdown, as far back as 2020, 2021, and then there was a massive gap, and then the second series came on, I want to say just before Christmas. That was series 2. That's set in Malta, by the way. I didn't realise it's a book series. Val McDermid came up with Karen Pirie. So this is the third book in the series. I'm not going to read the other 2 books because I've watched the TV series. I know the books are different and I do love the books, but this is for my benefit. So if you're interested in reading these books by Val McDermid, or because you love the Karen Pirie series, book 2 is set quite a bit at the, I'd say half the book, because half the series was in Malta. Book 3, The Skeleton Road, is set partly in Croatia. So it will be very hard for me to pick the other one up because I want to carry on with this because I love the TV series so much. So just putting that out there. That is an option. I can't tell you what this is about because it will spoil the other books, but basically Karen Pirie works within the police force. She's higher up in the police, so I don't know what her... This one says Detective Chief Inspector. So she's brought onto a job originally. She's from Scotland. She's in a very male-dominated environment. They don't think she can do much within this case. It's kind of a lost case, so they just shove her on it and say, you get on with that, thinking not much will come of it. She actually does really well, and so then they take her seriously, and that's how it progresses. So it's really interesting, really great. The series, they're on for like 1 or 2 hours, which is a shame because I think they could spread it out a bit and make it like hour specials. Anyway, worth a go. I'm not getting through these fast. Right, Cyprus. I have got The Unspeakable Acts of Zina Pavlou. I think it's Pavlou. I'm going to put it here. Mentioned it before. Pretty sure I mentioned it for last Eurovisionathon. I haven't got a copy of it, but I'm pretty sure I can get it through BorrowBox or on Scribd. So that's what I'm going to be reading for Cyprus. Czechia, you've seen this one before. I got it off eBay one year when I was typing all the Eurovision countries in and just grabbing every book I could, which is what I've tended to do. Not done that this time, so kind of proud of myself. But there's always time because Eurovision doesn't start for another few weeks. So this one's by M. Henderson Ellis. Don't know much about it, but I've mentioned it before. Something puts me off it, but it's not a long book. 240 pages, easily doable. I always end up picking something else up for Czechia, going for that one this year. Denmark. The award for the book that's been on my shelves the longest for Eurovisionathon is Red by Jackie Collins, I want to say Harvey. I picked up this book. My husband and my daughter are both redheads. I love the colour hair. I wanted to read about it through history. I wanted to read about the special like event days they have specifically for people with red hair. Yeah, and look, Tintin's in there. There's religious art and different art pieces in there. There's kings and queens. It just looks really good. And because it's obviously going to be quite info dumpy, it's putting me off. But again, the writing isn't all the way to the margins. There's a big index at the back, so it's not even, for what I'd have to read, 218 pages. Say, come on, Helen, you can do it. Want this to be read this year. I don't want to chuck it off my get rid of it without reading it, but that's going to happen if this keeps being added to every TBR. Estonia, Eastern Horizons. This was on a bookshelf at my library at the time. They were getting rid and saying help yourselves. It is set in multiple countries. Yeah, like I said, I'm using it for Estonia. I've mentioned it before, so I'm not going to describe everything, but it does mention there is a map again. There's the map. So he travels. You could use it from the UK because it looks like he starts in Nottingham, goes through France, Prague, where else does he go through? There's just quite a few countries, and like I said, I'm going to use it for Estonia, but it is worth having a little look at where you think could be useful for you. So yeah, I will be trying to read that one, Leveson Wood. He was doing a talk somewhere last year before Eurovisionathon, and I was really tempted to go and watch, but I never got around to it, and that's annoying because that might have encouraged me to read the book. In fact, it most certainly would have done. Finland I've got written down Happy Days of the Grump. I think this was on Scribd. Is it called Everand now? Whichever one you call it, it was on there. Let me look for a little description of this one because I haven't mentioned it before. Pretty sure it's the author that is Finnish. It's by Tuomas Cairo. It says, a funny and uplifting and life-affirming tale of grumpiness, perfect if you loved books. Oh, perfect. Of grumpiness. There's no comma. Perfect if you loved books like Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. Read that one, liked it. Rachel Dries' The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Howell Fry. I haven't read it, but I've taped the movie and want to watch that. Or Ruth Hogan's Keeper of Lost Things. Not sure I've read that one. It says, maybe there's a little grump in all of us. The grump at 80 years old is more focused on death than life, building his own coffin and keen to write his will in ink. Who can trust technology after all? He knows that everything was much better in the old days. But when the grump finds himself in hospital after falling down his basement steps, his life passes before his eyes. Thinking of the people closest to him and reflecting on the changes to the world, he starts to see the things a little differently. But can an old grump learn new love? With warm humour and a loving look at family and the relationships, the happy days of the grump is sure to bring a smile to even the grumpiest of faces. So I thought that sounded really good. So that's for Finland. For France, always got lots of options for France, but I've had this one for a little bit that I got in an offer at the works. It's Three's a Crowd by Christy McKellen. Pretty sure I've mentioned this before, but I think it's, yeah, set around Cannes Film Festival. Sorry, it's a bit shiny. Not very long at all. We're talking 228 pages, so no reason why that can't be read. Then for Georgia, I've got one called The Eighth Life. I will put a picture up of it here. I mentioned it last year. The only problem with this book is it's an absolute chunker of a book. I'm talking at least, I want to say 600 pages, but it could be up to 800 pages. It's massive. So if I was going to read that one, I would probably have to do it. Well, I'd have to do it on BorrowBox anyway, because I haven't got a copy of it. But also, I think I would have to start at the beginning of the readathon and have it on the back burner, reading little bits at a time while I'm reading other ones. So go and check that one out. Georgia is a tough country. Obviously, a lot of the time when you type in Georgia into search engines, it's bringing up Georgia in America. We're looking for Georgia that's like Middle East area. So if you have any recommendations for Georgia, please let me know in the comments below, or go in the Discord and share your ideas there. There are so many ideas in the Discord. People are really kind at sharing suggestions, or there'll be a list of books that they've read before. If you're looking for a particular country and you're struggling, message me. I now have 5 years, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 6 years of Eurovision TBRs from everybody, listed the countries and the authors and the books they read for. also 2 or 3 Junior Eurovision as well. So there will be a list of books I can send you for those countries if you're struggling. For Germany, I am going for The World's Worst Mothers by Sabine Ludwig. I believe that the author is German, but this book is actually set in Ireland, I want to say. So I've definitely read that somewhere. So, and it's published in Dublin, so that would make sense. So I think you can read that for either. Go and look it up. I've mentioned it before, so I'm not going to mention it again. But I don't know if this is a middle grade. It feels like it might be a middle grade, but I'm not 100%. But yeah, check that one out. That's for Germany. Next, we've got Greece. Another one that I got through the works in like a buy 3 kind of offer. Mrs. Winterbottom Takes a Gap Year by Joanna Nell. Pretty sure I've mentioned this one before as well. Let's see, I will just say it here because I'm not 100%. Heather Winterbottom has worked side by side with her husband as GPs in their idyllic rural practice for over 40 years. But as the time comes to hang up their stethoscopes, the Winterbottoms discover that they have rather different visions of retirement. Heather dreams of exploring the Greek islands, of escaping the shackles of her routine life and embracing an exciting new adventure. Alan dreams of growing his own vegetables. When things come to a head at a family lunch, Heather announces that she's decided to take a year off from her old life, from her marriage, from Alan. Alone in beautiful Greece, Heather embarks on her very own odyssey, complete with peak experiences, pitfalls and temptations. But what if coming home is the biggest adventure yet? So I thought that sounded really good. Love all books to do with travel, which is ideal for this readathon. For Israel, In My Mother's Footsteps, a Palestinian refugee returns home. This is by Mona Hajar Halabi. Mentioned this before, not going to mention it again. I know there's a lot of controversy around Israel and Israel taking part in Eurovision, and I will say here what I say every year. Eurovision does seem to happen every year no matter what goes on. It is confusing when they get rid of certain countries out of it and not others. There's a lot of controversy around that. What I will say is this is about books and the contest is about singing, so I'm concentrating on that bit. I will keep running this readathon as long as the contest's there and there are still people who want to take part and read books along with me. If you don't want to read for certain countries, that's fine. If you don't want to take part in the readathon for those years while all of this is going on, that's fine. Do what's comfortable for you. And that's all we can do. So yeah, this is for Israel. It's been on my TBR for years. I haven't got round to it yet. Will I this year? I don't know. But it's there. Like I said, I've mentioned it before, so you can go back and look at that. For Italy, I have got The Pairing. Again, this was, yeah, in a sale at the works. It can be used. I've got a sticker on that says France, Spain and Italy. It's by Casey McQuiston, and it says, it's not Theo and Kit have been childhood best friends, crushes, lovers, and after a brutal breakup 4 years ago, estranged exes. Look at those sprayed edges. It's not until they're trapped aboard a tour bus that Theo and Kit realise they've accidentally booked the same European food and wine tour, and now they're stuck with each other for 3 weeks of the most romantic sights and sensuous flavours of France, Spain and Italy. But it'll be fine, they're absolutely over each other. So when Theo suggests a friendly wager to see who can sleep with their hot Italian tour guide first, Kit is game. In fact, why stop there? Why not a full-on European hookup competition? But sometimes a taste of everything only makes you crave what you can't have. So options there, but I have it down for Italy, but who knows which country I'll end up reading that for. Oh, shiny again. Then we've got Latvia. This is one that you wouldn't expect for Latvia. It's by Jenny Colgan. I believe there's a character in this that's Latvian. I hope that's the case. People have read it for that before and told me so I'm hoping for that. It may be a while since I've read this one, so I'm going to tell you what it's about. Escape to the Scottish Highlands where a little bus packed with books brings joys to the road. Nina is a librarian who spends a day happily matchmaking books and people. She always knows what someone should read next. But when her beloved library closes and she's suddenly out of a job. Nina has no idea what to do next. Then an advert catches her eye. She could be the owner of a tiny little bookshop bus driving around the Scottish Highlands. Using up all her courage and her savings, Nina makes a new start in the beautiful Scottish Highlands. But real life is a bit trickier than the story she loves, especially when she keeps having to be rescued by the grumpy but gorgeous farmer next door. This has been on my TBR for so long, and I had no idea that it said, because it said the bookshop on the corner, I didn't know it was going to be a little bookshop travelling around, book bus travelling around Scotland, and that makes it more appealing. So hopefully I'll read that this year. For Luxembourg, who haven't been in it for that many years recently. Oh no, we're doing Lithuania first, begging my pardon. Lithuania, I'm going to read Breathtaking. This is a newer one on my TBR, only recently got, I'd say within the last 6 months. I feel like I bought this, I want to say, in the Waterstones sale, I think. It was quite a price at some point, because this says $18.99 on the back, and I absolutely did not pay that for it. But it says, geared up with 2 tandem bicycles, 2 tents and 6 panniers, Paula and Lorenz Eber set off from Seattle, Washington to cycle the world with their 2 daughters, Yvonne and Anya. Their dream to pedal in a complete circle around the world using a carbon-free, environmentally friendly way to travel. Their goal to raise awareness of asthma and the world's desperate need for clean air. Breathtaking is the true story of their adventures across Europe, Asia, the South Pacific and North America as they raise their daughters around the globe. Family togetherness takes on new meaning as they must work together to survive a 100-degree heat wave in Italy, so you can use it for Italy as well. Drug smugglers in Russia, a snowstorm at the Great Wall of China and a broken foot in New Zealand. Yet as the family pedals further away from home, they realise the greatest challenge they face is the journey they must undergo within themselves. The Ebers returned home 24 countries and 14,931 kilometres later, raising $65,000 for the non-profit organisation World Bike for Breath. They are the only family on record to complete a full circumnavigation of the world by bicycle. So Italy is obviously mentioned there. Yeah, there's another map, but it's split up across the board. Oh, there's a bigger map at the front. Yeah, so they definitely go through Europe there. So it might be worth looking what other countries you could use this for. But like I say, Luxembourg is definitely mentioned, and so I am going to use it for that, because that can be a difficult country to go for. But again, that's by Paula Holmes Eber and Lorenz Eber. So Breathtaking. Okay, next one's one I don't think I've mentioned before either. This is for, can't mention Luxembourg. The last one was for Lithuania, but again, a country that's hard to go for. So I'm going for Lithuania for that one. Next is the one I'm talking about for Luxembourg, and that's Memoirs from the Hippie Trail. So I will get that up and discuss what that one's about. I think I've got this as a Kindle book now. I think I got it on a 99p deal. Let's see. So this says, it's Memoirs from the Hippie Trail, Luxembourg to Nepal, 1971 to 1973. Originally, I wanted to travel to India and Nepal, but as I met many of the freaks, it showed me that many of the people moving on the trails were the same hippies that I saw in Turkey or Iran or Nepal. Freaks? That doesn't sound, unless he's calling himself one. I got to travel with different characters from Scotland, New Zealand, the Netherlands, Belgium, Great Britain, Ireland, Australia, even Afghanistan. All those countries are mentioned there. Happy for it to be used for those. I got the travel... It's not... The spelling isn't great. I got to travel with the man who stole the tour books of the London Library. And we had excellent information for local sites. As I moved through the countries I wanted to visit, I chose my places and some people came with me and some did not. We visited many important sites from many of the countries. We climbed on the 176 feet Buddha in Bamiyan, Afghanistan. We trekked on Nepali trails in the Himalayas. We travelled in an underground city in Turkey. We meditated on the Ganges River. I taught English for a few months in Tehran. We had a few dangerous situations but survived. As I travelled through the different areas, I tried to be as objective as I could be. I knew that I was going to be a teacher and I wanted to show how local people have lived their lives every day. The Westerners who travelled on the trail had many experiences to give and receive, and much of our sites were ideas from other tourists. This book is a primary source for historical or culture about the hippie trail. My journal is as accurate as I could be. Yeah, So I don't know how many pages. Oh, it's 187 pages. I think that's very doable. Because it says it starts in Luxembourg, I don't know how much of that will be mentioned, but I can only give it a try. Malta, again, I'll have to look this up. Trip to the Sunny South in March 1885. This was a book that I found, I want to say, through Everand or Scribd. Let's see what it says about this one. It says, the idea of writing a short narrative of a trip to the Mediterranean suggested itself by the numerous enquiries as to where did you go, what did you see that afforded most interest. It is difficult to compress into half an hour with any degree of clearness what can be seen in 6 weeks and covering 5,000 miles. I beg my friends to accept this broken and disjointed attempt at description. I've tried to say a little about most that I visited, whether they treated me well or badly. It's by an author with initials just LSD, and it's 47 pages long, so not much at all. It's quite an old book. That's the cover that's on Amazon. However, there's a really old cover that I've seen somewhere with like proper leather bound navy blue. I don't know how that's going to be, but it can tick Malta off the list pretty easily unless I find something else that I fancy before then, which is very likely to happen. Moldova. This is a relatively new book to me. Again, I think I got this in the Waterstones sale. Harley and the Holy Mountain, Through the Heart of Greece to Its Soul, so can be used for Greece. It's by John Mole. It says, a road trip through the heart of Greece to its soul. Meet Harley, an old 50cc motorbike, top speed 25 miles per hour, who carried John Mole on the back roads of Greece to deliver the collected G's and Worcester to a Moldovan monk on Mount Athos, a self-governing state run by monks. They passed sites, so sites as in building sites, and sites as in sites, from prehistory to the present. A Mycenaean beehive tomb, 3,500 years old, the body of a Russian saint who teleported Pilaf, a refugee camp in a chicken factory, and other extraordinary places, as well as tavernas, cafes, cheap hotels, and anywhere else with conversation and a jug of wine. The journey is seasoned with experiences and memories, absurdity and humour, treats and discomforts, the terrors and boredom of the slow lane, and above all, comedy with a glimmer of enlightenment at the end. So that is Moldova. Where are we up to? Montenegro. I will be reading One Woman Walks Europe by Ursula Martin. Mentioned this before. Bought this at Waterstones full price with a voucher that I was gifted. I think there's a map at the front of this. So I'm using it for Moldova, but you can use UK, Netherlands. Well, Netherlands isn't in it this year, is it? Germany, Poland, Ukraine, Romania, Bulgaria, Serbia. Like I said, I'm using it for Montenegro, Croatia, Slovenia's not there this time, Italy, France, Spain. Doesn't touch Portugal, but there's your map. So yeah, I love travel non-fiction, especially when people are walking, especially a woman on her own. That would be very interesting. I've wanted to do this kind of thing and just never had the courage to do it. So I live vicariously through others. So that's Moldova. Not Moldova, Montenegro. There are no words. Norway, A Thousand Boy Kisses. Mentioned this before. It's by Tilly Cole. I want to say this is a YA. I've got the second in the series somewhere as well, but I believe, yeah, a partner was sent home to his native Norway, so that's why she's upset in this book. Don't know much else about it. Gosh, that writing's tiny. But yeah, I've had this on my list for a while and really could do with getting it. This is an ex-library copy. So there you go. Let's see. Poland, Red, White and Black. Mentioned this before. Pretty sure this is a middle grade. Got it in the sale in Waterstones. It's by Matt Cartney. It says scattered on a remote Norwegian mountainside, so it can definitely be used for Norway as well, but Poland is definitely mentioned. So I will be reading that one. It's only 239 pages, absolutely doable. Writing's pretty big. No Reason Why I Can't. Portugal, What If I Never Get Over You by Paige Toon. Lovely sprayed edges. Mentioned this one before, but yeah, they spend excuse me, 3 blistering days in Lisbon. Oh, and then it says deep enough for them to plan to meet again in Madrid. So I believe you can use this for Spain as well. And then it also mentions later on a dream job as a gardener in an estate in Wales, so you can use it for the UK too. Many of these can be used for the UK, but I don't tend to mention much about the UK because there are so many books available to choose from with those. So that was Portugal. Romania. I am going to tell you what this one's about because it's been on my list on my Eurovision shelf for ages, and Romania just hasn't been here for me to read it. So I'm determined to read this year because they may not be in it next year. Who knows? This is by Spencer Quinn. I think I got this in a 3 for 2 offer in the works. Mrs. Loretta Plansky, a widow in her 70s, is settling into retirement in Florida while dealing with her 98-year-old father and fielding requests for money from her beloved grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Beloved children and grandchildren. Thankfully, her new hip hasn't changed her killer tennis game one bit. One night, Mrs. Plansky is startled awake by a phone call from a voice claiming to be her grandson, Will, who needs a $10,000 to get out of a jam. By morning, Mrs. Plansky has lost everything. Law enforcement announces that her life savings have vanished and that there's no hope of finding the scammers behind the heist. Loretta Plansky refuses to be just another victim. In a bid for justice, Mrs. Plansky follows her only clue on a whirlwind adventure to a small village in Romania to get her money and her dignity back and perhaps find a new lease of life too. I think that sounds really good. So that was Romania. San Marino. I have got a book that's on Kindle that's like, I want to say that's probably only going to be short. It's called Street Hearts, A Tale of San Marino. Don't know who it's by. I'll put a picture here. It doesn't tell you that much about it, but I don't think it's going to take much to get it read. That's all I can say. Go and look it up yourself and see what you think. But San Marino is so hard. We found it so hard over the years to find many books to do with San Marino. So whenever I find something that I can read, then I grab it. I've read a Mills and Boon before because that one was suddenly set there. I read one that was like a Why Choose book about somebody who was a prostitute. So yeah, there's not been a lot for San Marino, and so whenever I see a book for San Marino, I grab it and think, well, won't take me long, and then at least San Marino's ticked off. So there you go. Serbia, I have got Faye and His Servant. This Peter Owen World series publisher seems to do a lot of Eurovision countries, and so that's why I picked this one. This is by Mirjana Novakovic. I have mentioned this one before, so I'm not going to mention it again. But yeah, these books have these like leaves that come out on both sides. This one keeps putting me off because at some point I'm pretty sure it mentions horror. And I don't really fancy that. And I think, oh, it does mention vampires as well. So maybe it's not that hard hitting as I thought, but something keeps blending horror with politics. And I just read that and I'm like, I'm not a horror girly, but if I want to get Serbia ticked off my list, this is the one that I've got there. So need to consider that. Let's see. Sweden, I've got Hitman Anders and The Meaning of It All by Jonas Jonasson. This has been on my shelves for a little while and I've had other ones to read for Sweden, so I haven't reached for it. It says, it's never too late to start again and again. It's always awkward when 5,000 krona goes missing. When it happens at a certain grotty hotel in South Stockholm, it's particularly awkward because the money belongs to the hitman currently staying in room 7. Per person, the hotel receptionist just wants to mind his own business and preferably not get murdered. Joanna Kelander, temporarily resident in room 8, is a priest without a vocation and as of last week without a parish, but right now she has 2 things at her disposal: an envelope containing 5,000 krona and an excellent idea featuring 1 violent killer, 2 shrewd business brains and many crates of Moldovan red wine, so you can use it for Moldova. Hickman Anders and the Meaning of All is an outrageously zany story with as many laughs as Joan Nussen's multi-million copy bestseller The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out the Window and Disappeared. Haven't read that one, but there you go. So fancy that one. Oh, excuse me. I've had a cold and I'm still feeling a bit ugh. Let's see. Switzerland. Oh, something people will have realised if they've watched my videos before is Eurovisionathon. I tend to pick up quite a few train books. I'm not a train person. I'm not interested. I don't mind travelling on trains. It seems like a lovely idea and I feel like the slowness of it would really appeal to me. Reading about it, no. I like listening to the places people stop up at and talking about those places, but a lot of these tend to focus on the types of trains they're on, how the train runs, everything that happens in the train. No, not for me. This does mention multiple countries. Like I said, I've got it down for Switzerland, but we've got, you can definitely use it for the UK, Finland, Australia, France, Italy, Poland, Spain, Lithuania. So there's quite a few countries this can be used for. I wanted to read it this year so I could get it off my shelves, excuse me. However, Mrs. Polyfax put paid to that because so I'm up to book 3, which I said I was going to use for, what country did I say? Bulgaria. Book 4 is set in Switzerland and that one's called A Palm for Mrs. Polyfax. There's every chance I'm just going to listen to that and ignore that book again. We will see, because one of the other countries mentioned in there might come up and I might not fancy the book that I've picked for it at the time and I might use it for that. Highly unlikely, but we can only hope for the best. So that was Switzerland. Ukraine. I did have a book called One Ukrainian Summer picked out. However, I ordered that on Vinted. It didn't turn up. There was all kinds of issues around that. So I can't read that one. However, in a Waterstone sale, I found Wild Dances by William Lee Adams, all about, it says on the front, my queer and curious journey to Eurovision. Cannot ignore this one. It mentions multiple countries, but I'm going to use it for Ukraine. It says, as a boy, William Lee Adams spent his days taking care of his quadriplegic brother while worrying about his undiagnosed bipolar Vietnamese mother and steering clear of his openly racist and homophobic father. Too shy and anxious to even speak until he was 6 years old, it seemed unlikely William would ever leave small-town Georgia. That's Georgia in America, I believe, so unfortunately we can't use it for that, but by all means, if you find out that's the Georgia we need, bonus. He passed the time alone in his room studying maps and reading encyclopedias, dreaming of distant places where he might one day feel free. In time, William discovered that learning was both a refuge and a ticket out, so even as he struggled to understand and to get others to accept both his sexuality and his biracial identity, William focused on his schoolwork, his extracurricular activities and building community with the students and teachers who embraced him for who he truly was. Though his scholarship to Harvard parachuted him into a whole new world, he still carried a lifetime of secrets and unanswered questions that would haunt him no matter how far he travelled. Years later, as a journalist in London, William discovered the Eurovision Song Contest, an annual competition known for its extravagant performers and cutthroat politics. Initially just a fan, he started blogging about the contest, ultimately becoming the most sought-after expert on the subject. From Albania, Finland and Ukraine to Israel, Sweden and Russia, William was soon jetting across the continent to meet divas, drag queens and aspiring singers who welcomed him to their beautiful, if dysfunctional family of choice. An uplifting memoir about glitz, glamour, geopolitics and finding your people no matter how far you must travel. Wild Dances celebrates the power of pop music to help us heal and forgive. Looking forward to this one. I think it's going to be quite hard hitting, so if you think any of these topics are going to be difficult to read about, just bear that in mind before you read it. But how can I ignore a Eurovision book? I am tempted to have this as like a group book that people can join in the Discord with. I'll set up a chat for it. But it can be used obviously for all those countries mentioned. So exciting. Pretty sure each country will probably be mentioned in that book if it's talking about the contest. So that's Ukraine. And then finally, for those of you who don't know, I'm doing a reread of the Jasper Fforde series because his final book is coming out in September in the Thursday Next series. So for the UK, I'll be reading The Woman Who Died a Lot by Jasper Fforde. Basically, she's a literary detective in like a fantasy world. well, in a bookish world, but she lives in Swindon in our world, and then travels into the bookish world. So yeah, I can't tell you much about it because this is book, I think there's going to be 8 books altogether, and this might be book 7. So I've got this one to read. The unfortunate thing was the final book was meant to come out in January, and I was doing a read along where each book I read each month, and then January came and went because the book kept being pushed back. So my plan was to read this in May for those last couple of weeks for Eurovisionathon, and then the book was meant to come out, I want to say, in August or July, but the book's been pushed back to like September at least, if not November. I need it to come out not long after this because my brain is not what it was. I have got massive brain fog. I don't know if it's perimenopause or whatever it is, but I can't hold on to information for a long time, so I really need the book to come out soon. But yeah, this will be for the UK. So that's all the books I'm reading for the countries. However, I do have a few, like I always do, that I've already picked up that can mention multiple countries or other countries, so I thought they were worth a mention. These are the last 4 that I am going to mention. So there's Fearless by Louise Minchin. Picked this up in a Waterstone sale. She basically is talking about 17 exhilarating adventures with trailblazing women, from free diving under ice and cycling across Argentina to climbing some of the UK's highest peaks and swimming in shark-infested waters. These stories remind us of the bravery inside us all and how essential it is to celebrate women's achievements. So I have put a bookmark in. So she follows Kath Pendleton, who is free diving under ice in the dark, and that's Finland. So we've got that story in there. And we've also got Sophie Storm Roberts, who's cycling London to Paris. So you can use it for Paris, but multiple of the people in this book are from the UK. So there's 3 country options there for you. Finland, what did I say I was reading for Finland? Is the chance that I might swap that book out. Yeah, Happy Days of the Grumps. So if I can't get my hands on that via wherever I was going to get it originally, probably Everand, I will probably read the Louise Minchin book. Then I found this one. There's a place in Lee called Book Cycle, and each day you can take up to 3 books out and just provide a donation. Quite often, if I've got books left over that I'm not selling on Vinted, or I can't pass on to friends and family, or I don't manage to get to the charity shop, I just take them in there and donate there. But the last time I went, I just found 2 books I wanted. I gave a donation, and this was one of them. So it's On Pilgrimage, A Time to Seek by Ginny Fines. I always watch the pilgrimage programmes that the BBC put out. I love the idea of just these journeys and spirituality and all those kind of things. So I am going to consider this one for France or Spain, because I know it mentions a lot of France, but I know it mentions the Compostela de Santiago as well in Spain. So mostly it's France, as you can see. But it's basically about a pilgrimage of a woman, Ginny Fines, who after 28 years of family life, 7 children, 15 house moves and an operation for cancer, she wanted to make a pilgrimage as well as an internal pilgrimage. So I'm excited to read that one. This is dated from 1991. I was 4 when this was out, but yeah, really excited for this one. Proper looks otherworldly as well, doesn't it? Like from a long time ago. So yes, I'm considering that one. And yesterday in my workplace, I work in a library, I found The Year of What If by Phaedra Patrick. It says, can the future be rewritten? Carla Carter knows she's found the one. She and her fiancé Tom met through Logical Love, a dating agency she founded for the pragmatically minded. So Carla is confident that they will dispel an old family curse claiming Carter women are unlucky in love. But Carla's superstitious family insists she visit a fortune teller before her big day, and the tarot cards reveal that a different man holds the key to her happiness, someone she met while travelling 21 years ago. Startled, Carla decides to trace the ex-boyfriends she met during that time before she walks down the aisle. From Barcelona to Amsterdam, Portugal to Paris, will Carla find her perfect match, and can an old flame help rewrite her family history forever? So you've got Spain there, you've got Portugal, and you've got Paris. What did I have for Portugal? What If I Never Get Over You. So this could win out, but I'm not sure. But I just couldn't leave that there yesterday while I knew I was filming this video today. And then I also found this one on the shelf, We Came by Sea, Stories of a Greater Britain by Horatio Clare. It says, every day and every night when the sea was calm they came, and most days the newspapers and the websites said the same thing. Migrants in small boats were crossing the English Channel. Rescuers were overwhelmed, coastal towns were up in arms. Over and over the headlines and the pictures told us this story. But no story has one side, as Horatio Clare discovered when he began his journeys between Dover and Calais, where he met and listened to the volunteers who help thousands of people every year, from the lifeboat crews mounting rescue operations to the countless unrecognised, uncelebrated British people who are giving their all to help the vulnerable and desperate. We Came by Sea bears witness to hope and humanity. It is a journey through an unexamined nation, a nation which is every bit as great and good as the people in the dinghies believe Britain to be. This is not the story we have been told, but it's a true story. I just thought that sounded really heartfelt. And at one point he does mention for at least a couple of pages Ukraine, because he said when what happened in Ukraine happened, British people were taking people in by the droves and supporting those people, and what question he is asking is, why can we do that but we can't do it for other people who are coming across? And then he's talking about the media and the narrative that feeds. He speaks to lots of people, and so I don't know what nationalities those people are, but at least I know you can read this for France, and I'm not going to be too mad if people use it for Ukraine, even though a couple of pages is all that takes up. This book is just 187 pages, so very doable, but I just thought it sounded really interesting. I want to read a story, like, not a story, but read this person who has actually been there and seen what happens and heard the stories of the volunteers who are helping and the actual people who are coming across, rather than reading what the media want me to believe or what the politicians want me to believe. I just want to read about it myself. So there's that option as well. Oof, we did it. 35 countries, 35, well, plus 35 books, because I've mentioned a few options there. Like I say, main things you need to know is that it starts on the 18th of April. Did I say? Yeah, 18th of April to the 16th of May. It runs up until the Eurovision Song Contest is officially on the TV, and then I shut the form so that no more books can be entered. You will get the score the day after of the points that you've scored from all the countries that you've read for. 1 book per country, please. But above anything else, enjoy yourself. Make sure you sign up on the sign-in sheet. Make sure that you register each book on the book form. Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and the Discord. If you want the Discord link, let me know and I will give that to you. Looking forward to joining on with the regulars that come every year. Looking forward to welcoming new people. They are very welcoming. Follow the hashtag Eurovisionathon on all of the platforms mentioned. Enjoy yourself. Enjoy the reading. I know I will. And I will speak soon. Bye. Whoops, I forgot to mention, I absolutely was going to put this up at the beginning. My friend Nikki crocheted a me in a Eurovision cardigan, so that's the little jumper. I've always wondered what I would look like in crochet. I'm absolutely delighted with this. This is my Eurovisionathon mascot for this year. The little cardigan comes off, which I'm absolutely think is amazing. Isn't she so talented? And so what I'm thinking is, I don't know how to crochet, but I really should learn so that I can do little cardies like this for different themes and different occasions, and then I can swap the cardie out on it. And originally when I was going to do my countdown, I was going to have her sitting behind me with a little flag in her arms while I described each book. But because I'm struggling to film videos anyway, this is the only video I'm putting out, so I absolutely need to give her the credit that she's due. And so she will, if I do any Eurovisionathon videos, which I may not do throughout the readathon, she will be there in the background, along with Belle, which I got for Mother's Day. Woo! From Sophie. She's gorgeous too. I promised myself I wouldn't buy any of the McDonald's meals because I got one in Spain and got Chandler there as well. And then I have bought 2 meals since and got Chandler both times. So I'm leaving him there. We've got Mother Goose Vinylmation up there. I got rid of some of my Vinylmations recently, but I've kept some of the special ones. Mother Goose had to be kept because she's got books on her hat, well, on her little ears. So I couldn't get rid of her. And then we've got Herbie down here. And we've got Mrs. Potts. I've got a cup of tea one in the kitchen. So yeah, I just thought I'd share those from me and from little mini me. Bye bye.